The Chitrik Academy is dedicated in loving memory of Rabbi Tzvi Hirsh Chitrik.
Welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to learn from Tashma over here, Tashma Ketzad Amru, until all the way down here, Ameimar. It's a long Gemara, but it's not a difficult Gemara. Today we're going to discuss another case where we're going to try to prove that the halacha is like Raba, the Yush Medas is Yush. As an introduction, the halacha is that there's a mitzvah that a person should give Truma. Truma is that when a person has a field, he should give a percentage to the kohen. So Truma may be given, someone who wants to give generously can give 1/40th of his produce, or the average person can give 1/50th, or someone who's not very generous can give even 1 out of 60. For example, he has 60 fruits, he'll give one of them to the kohen. More generous is 1 out of every 50 fruits that he has. Even more generous is 1 out of every 40 fruits. So today we're going to learn a case where it's possible for someone to give Truma for someone else. Let's see this in the Gemara. Tashma, come and learn. Ketzad Amru. How did they say? In what case did they say that hatoirim sheloi midas? If someone gives truma, it's called hatoirim. If someone gives truma sheloi midas without the knowledge of the owner, so in what case did they say that truma say truma, that it will be considered a good truma, as it will be considered that the owner did the mitzvah of truma? In what case is this? So the Bryce continues, Harei sheyered l'seich stei chaverei, that a person went down into the field of his friend, v'likate, and he gathered some produce, v'toirim, and he gave truma shaloi b'rishus, without the permission of the owner. Someone just went into his friend's field and gave truma to the kohen from his friend's produce. So when is it considered truma or not? So the Brisa tells us, Im choishish mishum gezel, if we see that the owner is upset and he considers the other person to be stealing, ein truma se truma, then the truma is not considered truma because the owner was not happy with what was done. V'im lav, however, if the owner does not consider it to be stealing, that his friend went into his field and gave truma, then truma se truma. Then the truma will be considered truma. So now the Bryce is going to continue and ask, how do we know if the owner considers it stealing or not? So let's see. The Gemara says, Uminayim hu yedeya, and from where and how does he know? Im choishesh mishum gezel, vim lav. How do we know if the owner is worried about, considers it stealing or not? This is the Bryce's question. Let's make a little question mark here. And the Bryce continues and explains, Harei sheba bal habayis, when the owner of the field came, umatzoi, and he finds that his neighbor or whoever, his friend, came and gave truma, va'amar lai, and he tells his friend, Kacha etzel yafais, you should have given from my better fruits. Why did you give from these fruits? You could have given him even better fruits to the kohen. And what happens? So im nimtzu yafais mehen, if we see that there are better fruits, that they're better produce, then truma se truma. Then we see that the owner really meant it when he said that he should have given better fruits, and therefore it is considered a good truma because the owner does not consider it stealing. V'im lav, however, if we see that there are not any better fruits, then ain't truma say truma. Then the truma is not considered truma because the owner was being sarcastic and never wanted his friend to go separate the truma. So this is the condition that the Brisa tells us. Let's see this on our board. In a case where the owner came and said, you should have given better truma, so we look at the field. If the field has only one size of Truma, not better, not worse, then we know that the owner was being sarcastic and he never meant that his friend should give Truma and he considered it stealing, and therefore the Truma is invalid. So in this case, the Truma will not be valid because the owner was being sarcastic. However, if we actually see that there were better fruits in this field, better produce, so we see that the owner was saying he was being serious. Why did you give Truma from this part of the field, from the regular part? You should have given Truma from the better part of the field. In this case, we see that the owner did not object to his friend giving Truma for him, and the Truma will be considered Truma. This is what the Brisa says. Now let us return to our Gemara to see how is this approved according to Rava. However, before we get to that, the Brisa is going to tell us one more rule. Liktu habaylim. If the owner came, saw his friend give Truma, and liktu habaylim, and the owner started collecting produce, v'yisifu alein, and added it to the Truma that his friend already gave, then ben kach, whether there's a better field or even if there isn't a better field, Truma say Truma, then his Truma will be considered Truma because we see that the owner agrees to his friend giving Truma, and therefore he added to it. So this is the end of the Brisa. So from here, from the top here, from Tashma, all the way until here is the Brisa. From here to here. Now the Gemara is going to say its proof. Amai. We had said that if we actually find that there are better fruits in the field nearby, then the Truma is considered to be Truma. So now the Gemara asks, if we find better fruits, is the Truma considered Truma? Amai, why is this? But idna de taram, at the time that his friend gave Truma, halaya havayada. His friend, the owner of the field, did not know about it, and therefore it's considered stealing. So even though the owner agreed later on, however, during the time that it was given, he did not know about it. For the fact that the Brisa says that it's considered Truma, seems a raya according to Rava, the Yush das haviyush, that even a person knowing, even if the owner only knows afterwards, he may retroactively give permission or give up on an item. So this is the proof that the halacha is like Rava. However, let's see in the Gemara that even Abaye is going to say that this is not a good proof. We are holding now Tirgama. So we're going to see that even Rava says that this is not a good proof. So here we are going to reject this proof. Let's make an R. Tirgama Rava Livada Abaye. Rava explained this Brisa according to Abaye. Rava said this is not a good proof. Deshavia Shliach. Because we're referring to a case where the owner made his friend for a shliach. And therefore, in a case where the owner made his friend a shliach, in such a case, it does what he says later on, we'll see if the truma is considered truma or not. However, in a regular case where the owner did not make his friend a shliach, then maybe it would not be considered truma, because the owner doesn't know about it. However, in this case, when the owner made the person a messenger to do Truma, he obviously knew about it before, and therefore it's not considered Yush Madas because the owner knew about it the entire time. Now from over here, from Hachinami Mistabra, from over here, until the Daitchem, over here, is going to be a raya proving that it must be speaking about a case where it is a shliach. And then we're going to explain the rest of the Gemara. This part is just to explain that we're referring to a case of a shliach. Let's see this inside. Hachinami mistabra. It also makes sense to say that that the Brisa is speaking about a case of a shliach. Because if we would think that our Brisa is speaking about in a case where the owner did not make this person shliach, Mi havi truma se truma. Would we say that this truma is that the friend gave is truma? V'ha'atem gam atem amar Rachmana. The pasuk when it teaches us the halacha of truma, instead of saying atem that you should give truma, kain terimu atem, it says gam atem. The pasuk says gam atem. Also you will give truma. So why does it say gam? So amar Rachmana, va'atem gam atem amar Rachmana. The pasuk Kriv said atem, it says gam atem amar Rachmana. Hashem says, Urabish l'chachem, which is coming. The gam, also you, is coming to teach us that a person may make a shliach to set aside truma. And it also teaches us that ma atem l'daitchem. Same way when a person gives truma, it has to be with his knowledge. After l'chachem l'daitchem. Also, the shliach has to be with the knowledge of the owner. So we prove from here that the case is referring to a case where the owner made him a shliach. The owner made his friend a shliach, and therefore he knew about it all the time, and therefore it's not a raya to Rava and Abaya. Now that we proved that we're referring to a case of shliach, let's go back to how Rava is explaining the brisa. Se'ela hacha ma'искina, and in what case are we referring to? Kegoin the shavi shliach. The owner made a shliach to give truma. V'amra lei, and he told his shliach, his messenger, zil treim, go give truma. V'lo yamar lei treim mahani. He didn't say give truma from this field specifically. V'stame the baal habayis kitarum, and generally when the owner gives truma on his own, he gives from his usual regular field. V'azal ihu, and this shliach went. Azal means went. V'tar miyafes, and gave from the better field. So the case is referring to a case like this. Generally, the owner, when he gives truma, he gives it from this field over here, from the regular field. The shliach went and gave from the better field. Let's see. Uba balabayis, and then the owner came, umatzoi, and found that the shliach gave truma from the better field. V'amralei, and he told him, Kalach etzel yafes, go give from the better field, from the better produce. Then im nimtzu yafes mehem, if we find that there was really a better field, then truma say truma. Then a truma was truma because the owner consented to what the shliach gave, and he's happy with it, and he wants to give even better. V'im lav, however, if there isn't a better field, ain't truma say truma, then the truma is not truma. Back to our board. If the owner said you should have given from a better field, for example, let's add over here another field. Let's say there's three categories of fields. There's a regular field, a better field, and even better field, which will be the red field over here. So in such a case, if the shliach gave from this field, and the owner says, oh, you should have given him from a better field, means he's happy with what the shliach gave. However, he says, I would have given even better, but that's still fine. However, if there is no red field, if there isn't an even better field, then the owner is upset. Why did you give from this field? You should have given from a even better field. And he's being sarcastic, which shows that he does not approve with what the shliach did, and therefore the truma will not be truma. And this is the end of this Gemara. We're holding a Meimar down here.